Chapter 4. The only means of transport in the region, at first, was by bullock cart or horse. Many years later, a railway linked Kalaw to Rangoon, which was then the capital of Burma. The first travelers on those early coaches would have been on trains that left Rangoon and crossed the flat alluvial plains of the Irrawaddy Delta, with its rice paddies dotted with toddy palms, before reaching the mountains of the southern Shan states. Then as now, the dark silhouette of the Shan Plateau would have risen sharply before them, with the railway track zigzagging through the foothills and increasing steadily in gradient, cutting through forests of evergreen pines with splashes of purple jacaranda, yellow acacia, and bright orange blossoms of flame of the forest. In the crevices between the hills, where there chanced to be a small flat base, crops of mustard would have added a splash of yellow. Chugging along with its rhythmic beat, the train would have labored upward, its windows open to the scent of pine and flowers. And still today, the hills lie soft and curved, with a rich blanket of vegetation thrown over them. In ages gone by, some giant river flowed through and gently scooped out hollows, rounded hillocks, deepened valleys, and rolled out miniature plains. Nestled in the midst of this less rugged tail end of the Himalayas is the town of Kalaw, the place where Nadir Khan chose a site for his dwelling. Surrounded by hills, every path seems to lead either up a hill or down into a valley. If you stood in the center of the town, stretched out your arms, and did a pirouette, your fingertips would continually brush against a hill: Pagoda Hill, Kingswood Hill, Convent Hill, Railway Hill, and my own town, the hill encircled by Circular Road. The only road in Kalaw that didn't rise up a hill was the short stretch, a little less than a mile, from the marketplace to the train station. Nadir Khan decided that the site for his home was to be the small strip of land that fell sharply away from the road on one side and opened out briefly onto a small plain, which rose again into a low hill on the other side. The river that had carved out this landscape still flowed through, having toned itself down into a relatively small stream, which ran in parallel curves along the base of the three hunchbacked hills that stood guard over the little town. Matted vines wove their tendrils into the branches of mysterious trees that edged the banks of the stream and were festooned with orange and purple fruit hanging suspended like colored light bulbs, while here and there along the winding stream a tree branch extended itself over the water, ornamenting itself with a small burst of mistletoe or an artistically designed floral display of purple, yellow, or white orchids. The path to the house was a series of steps cut into the incline that fell sharply away from the general lay of the land, a precipitously narrow descent of red clay. From the road above, only the roof of the house was visible, fitting in well with the restrictive norm of privacy prevalent in the tribal area of the northwest frontier from where my grandfather hailed. The house was built on stilts, high above ground level, because the stream was known to overflow its banks during the monsoon season. Under the house, a few cows had their home, mooing and scenting the air with fresh dung, while fearful of the jungly billies, which occasionally carried off a calf. I never found out what those jungly billies were, and I could only assume that they were some kind of cougar or cheetah. But it gave me a scary feeling, mixed with a sense of awe at my brave cousins who lived there. My siblings and I had become relatively pampered with soft living and were sort of superimposed on the land, whereas these cousins were closer to the earth, to the soil, to the jungle. They were real, unspoiled, strong and resilient. They roamed barefoot about the grounds. The interior of the house seemed always to be in a state of twilight, because of the branches of trees and shrubs, some growing upwards from the level of the ground, some sprouting along the roadside and overhanging the roof above. Sitting in the dim light of one of the bedrooms and being told that a jungly billy had come in along the branch that almost touched the open window beside which I sat was enough to send me scurrying away from my comfortable perch. The windows on this side of the house faced the jungle, while directly behind the home was an embankment of red earth where the land had been cut away, creating a natural barrier from the eyes of human predators. It was surprising how my grandfather succeeded in having a home built of thatch and bamboo that could yet be similar to the walled-in, sun-dried brick abodes of the frontier region. They named their small homestead Narangi Bagicha and planted an orange grove interspersed with peach trees. The unripe peaches were small and hairy, and the fuzz created a rash around my lips until my knowledgeable cousins taught me to rub the fruit against my clothes or hair before I bit into the fruit. The orange trees were watered with great care and enthusiasm, but again, the fruit they bore were tangy and not at all what had been hoped for. A lone walnut tree grew to an enormous height. Its sturdy trunk ascended to the heavens with no toe-holds for climbing, its branches extending every which way and at a height that kept its fruit far beyond our reach, so we knocked down a few, if we were lucky, with carefully aimed rocks. The walnuts were still green when we picked them up, and we cut through the outer flesh to get to the nuts, which were harder than the rocks we used to crack them open with. When we finally broke through the outer shell, we found a disappointingly small amount of kernel deeply embedded in the impenetrable twisted interstices. We dug these out with hairpins, and I vouch for the fact that I have never tasted anything more flavorful than those walnuts or the oranges or the peaches of my Nanima's Narangi Bagicha.